welcome everyone into the new edition of the podcast we are hosting. My name is Alexa. I'm a CTO from Aetherius, where we build mobile apps for many different clients from all around the world. My guest today is my dear friend Caner. He has been an engineering manager in mobile for some time now, managing mobile development teams. So welcome, Caner. If you can share just in one sentence some introduction from your side, just for the audience to get to know you better.
Thank you so much, Alexa. Hello, everyone. I'm Caner, and I'm an engineering manager at the moment. I've been working on mobile applications since 2011, and I also worked in multiple domains, such as aviation, aggregation platforms, marketplaces, and fintech. My expertise lies on the mobile platforms, how to scale things from Series A to Series C, and also establish engineering standards for mobile teams, especially now in our time with the AI. Things are changing fast, and all paradigms are quite getting deprecated.
Impressive experience, I would say, being around in mobile from 2011. You probably went through a lot of transitions similar to what's happening right now with the AI.
Yes, I think this one is quite a big one. I think this one is about to reset everything we know about engineering, especially in software engineering, such as like titles are disappearing. Like because before that we had structural expectations from what senior engineer is, what staff or principal engineer is, and beyond, or managers, for example. But these days, we are becoming just an engineer again. People who solve problems by using these technologies.
That's really well put, and that will actually be one of the main topics of our conversation today. So, how can the mobile teams adapt to this new AI world which you shared? Where, like, if you're also seeing on LinkedIn constantly, more and more people who are starting new positions, they're calling themselves product engineers, like. Yes. Or just a software engineer. So The titles are definitely going away, as you said. So first thing I want to briefly touch with you is like at the moment I have a feeling that we have a lot of traditional iOS and Android teams. We have a lot of companies which are on the market for a while. They have their own standards, way of working, etc., etc., and they are slowly starting to explore the usage of AI into their day-to-day work. So my question to you is, since you did this kind of migrations in your organization, so how should the team be structured? So what are all the changes which you need to make in order to enable your team to use AI at first?
Well, let me start from a very high level and go into the nitty-gritty details and some scars around it. In the last decade, as you mentioned, we have mobile engineers, front-end engineers, back-end engineers. Then we started to see divisions like specializations, like iOS engineer, Android engineer, or React, Angular, back-end, DevOps, then turned into platform. And these specializations are quite valuable. And they will continue. They will continue to hold their value for quite a long time, because AI itself, or in this case, LLM-based AI coding assistants, they are quite. They can do lots of. They can take most of the groundwork, lots of all the integrated stuff that we are accustomed to do. In mobile, I can give you this example. In my current company, we have mobile and Android applications written in native. But with AI, I observed that at the end, at least, each platform engineer can also start contributing to the other one without learning everything. But there's a catch on that. The catch is, it is only possible Also, the same thing also possible from mobile to backend. Backend to mobile to backend is possible. Backend to mobile is a bit more tricky because these two have different mindsets. It is possible only if the environment is set up correctly. Okay. And I call them like guardrails. In our current setup, and how to use AI or how to enable yourself with AI is you can start using Cursor, Claude Code without doing anything. But these things tend to make assumptions, tend to have hallucinations because they rely on the context. In the end, they are just predicting what we are going to say or what we want to hear. With the right guardrails, what are they? First one is always the coding standards that you are using in your code base. Second, especially mobile side, and very important, or let's say especially on iOS, you need to set which iOS version, which iOS conventions you need you expect from it. Otherwise, it might come with something with combine, but you're using async avoid. Or even worse, it can come with a UI controller-based solutions, which happens. Or on the Android side, it can easily fall back into the XML-based UI approaches or old MVVM paradigms. So you need to define those things. You need to explicitly tell AI that it should use these things. Like async, you should use async avoid, use Swift 6.0, 6.2, depending on the code base. Never use iOS 18 and below, for example.
And sorry to interrupt you quite quickly. How do you do that? How do you instruct them? Do you use these skills or something else?
You can use. They are kind of the same, but you can define a Claude MD file if your project is small. If you are playing around with it, Claude MD file is fine. It's totally all right. But if you are operating in an environment like you have, let's say, 5 engineers, 10 other mobile engineers, you need to organize those things. The way I found it useful is you can create a reference folder for the AI. It can be under Claude folder, it can be under Cursor folder, it doesn't matter. It can also be a separate folder as well under your root directory. And you can you can create multiple MD files, like one for coding standards, one for software architecture, one for testing strategies, like for how to write unit tests, how to write snapshot tests, and how to run them as well, how to run the basic commands such as building the project, building for tests, running the tests, and so on and so forth. These things are quite valuable because otherwise, every single time, whenever you open a new session, it will be a blank state. When you put those references, you can tell the coding agent to use them. On top of those things, when you establish the baseline foundation in different MD files, you can create the agents on top of it. Like you can define agent structures, and you don't need to do it by manually. Ask Claude to generate an agent instruction based on what you are expecting from it. And it can produce an MD file. You can use it, put it onto the code base, and then Claude Code can pick it up. If you are using Cursor is a bit different, but it can also use those agent references as well. Same thing for Android, same thing for React Native as well. It's very, very practical. One thing I think I should mention this is, and only give the good examples. You don't need to overload it with, here's the good example, here's the bad example, and here's the edge case. You don't need to do that. Always keep those files concise. Keep it shorter than maybe 200 lines, because every single time those things might increase the token usage as well. Speaking of token usage, never rely on the most powerful model ever, because Well, I don't need to go into the details about it, but for implementation details, the default one, Sonnet or Gemini Flash, it works. It does the job pretty well. But for enhanced thinking, orchestration, like advisory role areas such as software architecture, maintainability, how to scale these things up or down, or platform-related work, yes, use the most advanced model, and then use it sparingly. Use the main model all the time. For documentation, you can use the cheapest version, which is Haiku. It can generate the docs, it can generate the comments. I don't know, it can read things quickly. And that's it. I mean, that should go a long way. If you check the blogs, you can see like they recommend some repositories about the skills. And if you check those skills, you will see like 50, 60 different files. You can use them as references, but only use the ones that you need. You don't need to pour everything and then rely on AI to know everything about this. It never works. And it can cost you time, it can cost you money, it can cost you a couple of white hairs as well to debug it.
Yeah.
And yeah, have I missed anything? Maybe one more thing, which is the context. I regularly keep, and clean also, but I keep a track of decisions, examples about what I did in the project. And every single time at the end of each session, I instruct Claude to summarize what we did, what worked, and store it in a local memory. So it creates a memory file and keeps track of the projects or the feature implementations, problems I encountered, and it stores that. It acts like an architectural decision records in a way, but it is for the agents. We saw that whenever something similar happens, it checks the memory instead of analyzing the code base, thinking and spending the valuable tokens. It checks the memory. And then devise a solution way faster, cheaper, and quickly.
Thank you for the really practical examples around like the real world implementation of AI assisted coding. So if I could take away a few things from here, I would say that you said that like the AI itself is just like, okay, give engineers the AI and they will ship faster. And the most important thing here is to have the processes which will enable that AI assistant coding to go smoothly, to not spend too much credits, to optimize getting to the solution, to optimize getting the context into that AI with these different Claude and D files. Also, really important thing which you shared is don't overcomplicate. So give only the positive examples, the small examples, which I think is really, really important to take away from here. So yeah, it's a really, really nice overview for getting started. And based on what you shared, I believe this works in teams of 5-10 engineers, and it works really well at scale. So yeah,
it works. Yeah, it works at scale. It can be improved a lot as well when you can connect your Figma MCP, and then it can read the Figma files. But as you expand, you'll definitely realize that you need to talk the same language with the designers, which leads to another topic, which is the design system, for example. Another one is you want to build let's say, feature of a specific product. Let's give an example. Let's say you are working on a marketplace application and you're going to implement the search functionality, right? There are two. You can either go to AI and says, I have the designs, here's this design. link, Figma link, implement it. The second one is, here is the product definition file, and which is an MD file. And here's the Figma link, and plan the implementation and ask me questions. Be concise, be brutally honest, and prepare, and then run. You can use Opus, for example, in this case, and it generates a plan for you, the implementation plan. I think if you use anti-gravity from Google, it does it very similar way. It can generate an MD file as like an RFC format. In an RFC format, you can leave comments on top of it. Claude also supports this one. You can discuss AI, how this thing will work, and then you can go to the implementation, and it can also run and compile the project, run the tests, get some feedback, close feedback loop, so that it can work by itself. Otherwise, it might go somewhere else.
Nice. And basically, as we are talking about the processes and the way of working, I still see a lot of companies not using these kind of processes in their organization. Yeah, this actually what you shared is, from my perspective, and I talk to a lot of people in mobile engineering space, I would say it's really advanced in terms of how companies are using AI at the moment. I don't know if you agree with me. If you don't, just say it, but that's what I'm seeing right now. And I want to shortly touch that. And what do you think is maybe blocking these teams, which are teams of really good engineers, to start doing this kind of thing? Is it leadership? Is it not enough understanding between leadership and the management team? So what is the often reasons for that which you're seeing?
I think the main reason is the ways of working itself.
Okay.
As I mentioned in our conversation, most of the software engineering practices were established in the last decade. I mean, the modern ones. Of course, we are building things from the learnings from the 2000s, 90s, 80s even. At this, still we are using the 2010s era learnings and best practices. In this domain, in new era, the things change, and it doesn't start with the tooling or how we use AI. It starts with how we work as an organization. So what's the role of an engineering? What's the role of and the definition of product, definition of design, and how these pillars communicate with each other. Last decade, design system, for example, was an optional thing until you reach a specific point as a company. But now it's actually a way of communicating. It's a communication method between engineers and designers. Same thing for the product as well. The general team structure it still is. You have multiple engineers, 5, 6, 8, 10, and maybe even more, but that's a different topic. And you have one engineering manager who is responsible for career management and delivery of the team, and one product manager who is responsible for the roadmap. Product roadmap, I mean. But now we need companies needs to establish a common language, a common ways of working on how product talks to engineering, what's the output of a product decision. Maybe let's say a form in a structured way, and hand it over to engineering, and also for engineering, what they expect, what they should return to product and design. So usually the communication links between those teams or these pillars are quite weak, quite company dependent, or even people dependent. Yeah. So this is usually the missing link. AI exposes this stuff. And if you have a clear communication, clear ways of communicating things, especially in a written way, then AI can enhance everyone. it enhances the whole organization to move faster, so that each department can think or look further away and see things and collaborate. On the engineering side, usually these kind of things like aligning designers, design, product, engineering, leadership, usually this was reserved for senior engineers, like staff plus engineers, who can operate between teams, between organizations. They act like a glue, or they understand the business, product itself as well, and they can easily communicate what product needs to engineering language. Now, in this scenario, we are expecting the engineers who are following the 2010s conventions, we expect them to operate like staff or principal engineering context. So that is a big drawback. I mean, I cannot go to my team, for example, and expect them to operate like this, expect them to understand product or design, how to talk to those different people in this context. So that part, we need to focus on these parts, like how on the communication side, on the soft skill side, to enhance the whole team. That's why I said that the definition of an software engineer is changing. Also, the definition of product and design also changing. I don't expect them to code, but I expect engineers to talk the same language with those people, or establish a set of rules to collaborate. When you have that, then yes.
Yeah. So from what you said, the main blocker is the way of communication between the engineers and the project managers and the design team, being caused by the reason that the engineers are starting to be product engineers and thinking about different things. And actually, that's a really interesting perspective which you shared, that with the AI, people are expecting from engineers to be in a position of staff engineers and lead engineers, etc. So AI kind of puts them in that shoes, which they are potentially not prepared for. So, which brings me to one more thing which we want to discuss with you. So, when an organization, or let's say a single mobile engineer, and he wants to leverage AI, so where should that learning start? Will it start by communication? Will it start by identifying how to fit in those shoes? So where to start in this? I would say times where there are a lot of information, a lot of blog posts, a lot of people talking about AI, some relevant things, some things which are not that relevant. I have a feeling that also within some teams, that's the blocker, because they want to start with AI, but they don't know where to start, how to educate their team, how to communicate with people. So what would you advise those teams where to start?
It depends. It depends. I mean, there are multiple paths on this. From my perspective, before even using AI, I would start with the communication, right? Especially on written communication. For example, you can easily establish with your product managers to get them a PRD, that's a product reference document, or product requirement document. I think there are so many names on this. So that they can write these things down, like what to expect, edge cases maybe, so that they can start talking the same language. Same for design teams as well. Usually the design part is actually the low-hanging fruit. You can easily ask them to define their parameters, naming conventions, and start using. On the other part is without touching any organizational part, because if you're a junior engineer or let's say mid-level engineer, maybe you don't have any power or any, let's say, social credibility in the organization. you can focus on the AI side. So what you can do? Always start with the first principles, like how this thing works, what it can do, what it can't do, and then you can start tuning the initial model with agents, or you can provide the things I mentioned, and you can deliver faster. Second thing is you can tune is the wrong word for this, because you are not tuning the machine or model. You don't need to deep dive into all those things, but you can start talking to Claude or ChatGPT to ask it like how to use it much more efficiently. And you can use it for like understanding the code base, different parts. You can use it for daily tasks that you are doing without knowing it. And then you can increase your AI, not AI literature, AI literacy with that. Okay. And when you have that, you can add the soft skills on top of it. This is the other way. Yes, there are so many blocks, so many things. You don't need to overload yourself with those. And you can watch. Yes, there are amazing videos on YouTube about the internals of AI, how it is used in different perspectives, but keep it minimal.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just consume and do nothing.
Exactly. I find myself often in that state where I'm just consuming, and I always say, okay, let's see this video, and then I'll start, and let's see this, and then I'll start, and then I end up like being overwhelmed and never start. So I know how that is. So from my perspective as well, to follow up on what you said, the advice would be, get some initial introduction to the tools, and then just start, and then figure out things along the way, and get better with it, as you said, like improve your AI literacy. So and one thing which you and me discussed is that previous to actually the AI adoption, you started, and you also mentioned that you started enabling your iOS engineers to contribute to Android code base, and Android engineers to contribute to iOS code base. And I think that's also a shift which is happening inside mobile. So you don't need to be an expert. You just need to browse through LinkedIn job posts, and then you'll see that every single job posting, which, for example, previously you had senior iOS engineer, and bonuses would be some iOS related things, and now each post has a bonus which is knowledge of Android development. So I think that the world is slowly switching to that place. As you mentioned, product engineers, but in terms of mobile, we're talking about mobile engineers who are maybe versatile, doing React Native at the same time, iOS at the same time, Android, and a little bit of everything. So can you share a little bit more about that shift which you made within your organization, where you said, okay, now iOS engineers can contribute to Android engineers can contribute to iOS?
I think the main reason is it is easier than ever to contribute compared to the previous years, because each platform has its own advantage, disadvantage, nuances, and it was valuable, still valuable, but it is actually quite easy to get on board onto the new platform. And on front-end platforms, okay, I will skip website of things. On mobile platforms, the conventions are quite similar. CO2i is very similar to Jetpack Compose. Of course, there are some differences. Coroutines are quite similar to async await, but the nuance is the actors on the Swift side. And on Android, there are so many built-in stuff that you can easily use that can't translate to iOS, but there are some things that, for example, Gradle is something completely different than Xcode itself or Twist itself. There are some nuances, but with AI, you can You can ask, okay, I'm an iOS engineer. I want to learn about Android code base in my organization. I want to contribute simple things, or I want to build a product. On top of it, it can easily link the conventions and guide you to write code. I mean, you can guide AI to write the code for you as well. So I think when this is becoming a commodity these days, and that's why companies put those things on their job description. Also, two different code bases, and before AI, we had to hire 2 people for each, which means double the cost. So now the cost on the people side, they want to keep it lean as possible, and spend the rest of the budget to the tokens. Because you when you build a product, you have let's say you built the iOS counterpart of it, and you know the product. And if you want to build the Android part, you don't need to start from scratch. You already have the context. You already know how the backend works with that feature. You just need to translate what you do on iOS into Android. On that sense, it was like 100% iOS or Android and 0% the other one for an engineer. And now it's like 80% iOS or Android and 20% of the other platform. You don't need to be an expert on this. Just you need to be able to use AI to translate what you know to the next one.
One more question around that transition, and in general, it translates to AI as well. Did you receive some pushbacks from the engineers, from the leadership team, from the stakeholders? So basically, you want just from one day just to start with this inter team contribution. So did you receive some pushbacks, and how did you handle them?
Yeah, pushback is inevitable, because if you look at Reddit, if you look at YouTube, Twitter, I don't know, any other places, you'll see that there's a big fear of AI is replacing engineers, which is actually not true. It will not replace. Yes, it will replace huge engineering teams with smaller, much more capable engineering teams. I don't think we're going to see huge, like 200, 300 engineering teams in the next decade. You can easily see maybe a smaller engineering team, maybe 40, 50 engineers maximum in a company that reach, 10 billion valuation, maybe even more. It's possible. I mean, WhatsApp did it before, last decade. They did it. And same, they fear that they will be irrelevant. And our job, in our profession, we had to renew ourselves almost every 3 to 4 years. Okay, let's say 5 years, because things change. Imagine, I started in 2011. When I started, I had Objective-C, Xcode 3.2, something like that. Multiple windows, no auto layout, no automatic reference counter, nothing. 5 years later, 2016, we had Swift 3. And things changed. 5 years later, 2021, we had Swift 5, API stability, and all those stuff. And things shifted. 5 years from now on, 2026, now we have AI. We have lots of new conventions, async await, Swift 6, structured concurrency. Languages kind of converge into one place. And the old knowledge, they're still valuable if you have a very old code base, but everything is built on top of each other. And if you don't renew ourselves, adapt ourselves into the new ways of working, new tools, new tech, new capabilities, we're going to repeat ourselves and stay in the expert beginner. And that is actually the fear, because the change is so stark at the moment it creates a big fear among people, and that's why they tend to push back, because they don't trust AI, because they have one perception in their minds. But it's all about framing. It's all about how to use it. Like, it's an assistant. It's a very capable assistant that can enhance your capabilities, move things. You can move faster. Maybe that's not the right way. You can move much more confidently without thinking the nitty-gritty details too much. And it's a new layer of abstraction. Or it can be a very powerful cost center and stress center for everyone. And there are so many examples, especially in the white coding communities. You can see lots of horror stories about bad AI usage. So it is still an uncharted territory. Some people are quite exploratory. They do not fear to jumping on it. It's a very more experience, by the way. But most, they don't like it. They prefer stability. They prefer what they know, because they might be in a different stage in their lives. It might be cultural. It might be something else. Maybe the AI adoption is enforced from top down. This thing should come from the bottom up.
I believe that there are a couple of reasons to that, as you said. So if it comes to bottom up, I think that's 100% I would say the sign that you have a healthy engineering organization, which is constantly trying to push things further and basically do things which are good for the business side of things. And I think that's where the world is going. But on the other hand, I completely understand that what you shared, the panic around the AI. So people it's natural to them to kind of have some feeling of hate or scared towards something for which everybody's talking that will replace them. So I don't want to use this because it will potentially replace me. So there are a couple of different perspectives to this, but AI brings definitely a lot of benefits, and I think it's crucial for each organization to start thinking about it now, at least. So I want to hear from your perspective. You've obviously had a lot of positive stories, positive outcomes around usage of AI, but what would be maybe one story which you can share with us, maybe one thing where AI enabled you and your team to do something which was previously not possible?
I think one area definitely is, let me think thoroughly on this, because there are a couple of examples I have. Because one of them was definitely the modernization of the code bases.
Okay.
Beforehand, it was possible. I did it multiple times, but those projects were done in multiple quarters, 3 quarters, 4 quarters, maybe even multi-year projects. They were multi-year projects. There was no way to negotiate with the leadership to I don't know, for major refactorings. I mean, the process was especially in a scaled environment, the process was always to create an MVP, a proof of concept on a specific area, and then systematize the whole thing, and then start delegating to the relevant engineers. With AI, those long-term platform-related work have become sprint, not sprint, maybe they become very achievable. Instead of spending multiple quarters, long-term thinking, planning. And now it is, again, you need to put a lot of thinking, a lot of discussions, and yes, that part stayed the same, but the implementation part is now, instead of quarters, but now it's sprints. Maybe in a couple of sprints, you can easily achieve the same results. I think that one is one of them. Another one is I mean, everything I'm going to mention, they were achievable beforehand, but it took quite a long time. But now it is way more possible for every single engineer to get on board into a domain that they had never worked or experienced. So I think that is the most important part of using AI. It can easily gather the context from different sources. It can be Notion, it can be Confluence, I don't know, transcripts, meeting transcripts, and you can easily get the context quickly. Instead of spending hours, days, you can get it in an hour or so.
So to sum things up, you said that the three things where you see the most progress are basically speed, because you can deliver and test out something for the business in weeks instead of quarters or years. The other thing is modernization of code base, and to be honest, I love that perspective, because coming from the engineering side of things and seeing a lot of organization where just because of the lack of time you cannot refactor something, and then the code base becomes a mess. It's a big improvement boost. Also, it impacts the developer experience as well. So you imagine having some old pieces of the code which nobody likes to touch, and then you push them through AI, and then they're pretty nice and enjoyable to work with. So definitely. And the other perspective, which I believe translates mostly for the bigger organization, is diving into the parts of the projects and the features which you'd never touched before, and AI can just summarize you. Nice. That's a wonderful perspective.
I have one more example. Two examples. Beforehand, it wasn't that possible, but now AI with proper setup, it can actually act like a how can I say, a very capable QA, very capable test engineer as well. And now without AI, we had to rely on the UI testing frameworks that very hard to maintain, quite painful, especially on the CI side, very non-deterministic as well. But with AI now, we can, I'll give you an example. We start using a new tool in my current company, and it now covers almost 60 to 70% of the UI tests, and we don't need to maintain it as a code, but we can also give like instructions to it, like how to test that part of the application. It can be triggered by a CI, and it can run those things very, very consistently. I think this is a very overlooked area, and because the UI tests are quite expensive to write and maintain, but with the AI now, they are very getting easier to do it. Second one is the incident. Yeah.
No. So I just wanted to briefly touch on that one to try to understand it correctly. So this tool which you're using is basically not something which you integrated to your code base. It's only running when you're doing something on the CI/CD.
Exactly. So we store the use cases, or let's say the user journeys, in a separate file, and it can read it. Like it is very similar to, like, I don't have anything similar to it, I think, before. And that is anyway, probably we're gonna see more tools like that. And they are platform agnostic. Like they can act, they can run. You can create UI tests for both platforms by using MD files, which means great.
Yeah.
Especially for the startups. For established companies, definitely yes, because previously it was a big bottleneck. And we're going to see more developer tools like that. Another example I would like to give is the incident management.
Okay.
Because before AI, you had to establish you use either Datadog or any tool that provides end-to-end tracing from mobile to the DB side of things, and hold lots of context in your mind or something like that. and identify the problem. Now with AI, you can easily, when something happens, let's say an alert is triggered and there's a rising trend around it, it can analyze, inspect the root causes of those problems. And when you open that page, it can tell you what's going on, which means it can act like a very capable SRE engineer, regardless of the platforms. So when you combine these things too, I would say that it's a big enabler.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Yeah, well, based on what you shared, it also goes side by side by what you said a little bit earlier about teams of 50 to 60 people building software which is valuable for 10 billion, because you have a lot of these tools which are basically enabling them to have a product which is stable, which is tested, etc., etc. So that's a wonderful perspective, and I think in the AI world where observability is getting really, really, really important, because a lot more code is generated through the AI. I believe that you mentioned the developer tools will be coming. I believe also in observability space there will be a lot more quite useful tools which we will be able to use on mobile side of things as well. And shortly to touch that, metrics, measurements, etc. Do you use some across your organization and in general? Do you use some tools or some metrics or some KPIs to measure whether the AI adoption was a success? And how did you measure, and how did you maybe tell to the stakeholders or some higher management, like, we decided to go with AI, we decided to go with Claude, for example, to do these skills, to do this like that, and it has saved us, I don't know, is it 30% of development speed, is the velocity metrics? So what do you think are relevant metrics in general when we're talking about AI?
To be honest, it is not an easy way. There is no easy way to track. You can easily fall back to old pitfalls, such as how many lines of code were generated with AI is a very bad way to measure. You can use that metric to understand how our engineers rely on AI, how much they're relying on it. It can be used as an adoption metric, but it can be gamified. It can be skewed as well. That's not a good metric, but but still can be used. But you need to combine it with other metrics as well, such as the developer velocity. It's always relevant from a business perspective or for a manager perspective as well. I rely on that metric more than the other metrics, but it is just a signal. Another signal is the incident rates or classic DORA metrics. How long it takes to resolve that issue is another thing. So you need to combine these. You can also use PR numbers, like how many PRs, for example, iOS engineers or Android engineers created and merged in a single week. You can easily see, with AI, you can easily see upticks on those. And what else? Token usage is another one to understand the efficiency. Like if you use a very inefficient environment, you're going to have a huge token expense. And you can combine with the PR ones, developer velocity, AI generated code as well. You can see the trends. Like there's no one single bullet metric, but there are multiple things. Also, and everything I mentioned, they depend on the context, depend on the company, and on the operations. Because, for example, for me, I also monitor the operational metrics, such as like how many support tickets are created per week, and like how fast we resolve them as well. AI can help a lot on this as well. And if I summarize, always use multiple metrics, at least 4 or 5 metrics. key metrics. Dora is quite useful. It is, yes, designed for backend most of the time, but it is quite applicable on mobile as well. Tool-wise, you can use DX. There are some similar tools like to measure developer efficiency. You can use those. If you don't have anything, then keep it simple. Monitor token usage, monitor PR, number of PRs, and also the developer velocity. These things are quite easy to measure, regardless of the tools.
Yeah. So basically, from your previous experience, the idea is to combine all of this and basically form a bigger picture, I would say, or a bigger context around how your team is using AI. Because if you catch only one metric, that might be not relevant because some other metric is going off the roof. So that's really well put. And I'll just shortly touch that. A few months ago, I was on a conference, and there was this one guy who's leading the company. It's a unicorn company, recently valued for 1 billion, and they're doing observability basically. And he told me, like, we can measure everything, but we cannot measure our developers. He said it's super hard because they always find a way to get around. Engineers are like that. Like, if you said that the measurement is number of features, they will find a way. If you say the measurement is number of lines of code, they will find a way. So it's a difficult. It was difficult even before AI, and now it's even more difficult. But that's where, like, those kind of roles which you're in, like engineering management, etc., stands up, and it's really really important to have that inside your organizations.
If you want to measure an engineer's performance, yes, you can rely on those things. But as I mentioned, they are just signals. Everyone is different. Every role is different. For example, for mid-level engineers, maybe even for seniors, you can expect more delivery stuff. But for more senior people, it's not about delivery. It's more about enabling, more about systems, more about the impact radius. Yes, these things are very hard to measure. But over time, you can collect examples, you can collect evidences, and you can combine these things together. And then you can evaluate the performance. Otherwise, there's no way to create a blanket metric or blanket criteria, because engineers we are lazy. We will find all the shortcuts. We will find all the gamifications. This is our job in the end.
Yeah, I loved how you put this into a picture of enabling. The more senior you are, the more you will push towards enabling the rest of your team to do something. So you will spend more times on meetings with the product management, on the meetings with design team, with backend team, and then just you will enable the rest of your team. And I find it really when I was just the developer, I thought like that part was easy. You don't code that much, but that part is like super difficult across every organization I work with. It's always challenging actually to kind of constantly. You know that yourself, to kind of constantly be there and unblock people and make sure everything goes as expected. So definitely the more senior you are, the less actually you will be able to be measured by code. You will, but on the other hand, as you said, those are concrete examples which you can share. Hey, I unblocked this, I unblocked this, I unblocked this, I unblocked this. So anyway, when someone from the upper management discuss something, you will be able to give them the concrete examples. So I think that's also really important thing. And coming back to the AI, so one more thing is we mentioned like the good scenarios and what will happen if the team starts using AI the right way. But can you tell me something about mistakes, like maybe something which you made personally or within your team, or maybe you heard about it? Because there are also, for example, I've seen over Twitter code which generated a lot of vulnerabilities, and then some hijacked it, etc., etc. How realistic are those scenarios, and how avoidable, and what is the worst thing which can happen?
One example I can share is never give an engineer an AI, and here's the AI, here's the cloud code, you're done. It's the worst thing you can ever do, because as you said, I mean, not every company or every engineer uses it in a very specific way, and they need to be onboarded. So AI onboarding, I think, is quite crucial on this, especially in our time now. You need to show them like, this is the basics. This is how. This is the good practice. This is the bad practice. You need to tell them, and you also shadow them or show them how to use AI. So we are coming back to AI literacy. Without AI literacy, it is very dangerous to give this tool to anybody else, because it is costly. One example is I had a new engineer in my team, and he never used AI in this context before. I used like simple ChatGPT level, and never used Cloud Code because he was in a very regulated environment and they didn't allow him to use any sort of anything similar. And he started using Cloud Code like ChatGPT, and he lost almost 2 weeks in the code. He just AI jumped one place to another and another. Oh, there's this edge case. Let's fix that. Another edge case. Let's fix that. And that cost him a lot. So not money. I mean, yes, money wise, it was expensive, but more importantly, it was quite stressful. So that's, I think, the biggest one. Second one is treating AI as a full stack engineer. Yes, it can implement things, but without guidance, without planning, without having a closed loop feedback, you probably will spend more time to fix AIs than building the feature.
Yes, it can be a double-edged sword. So as you mentioned, coming back to the AI literacy, I've also seen some people spending more time fixing things which AI made than actually the time it took them to make that themselves. So definitely the teams should be careful, and the AI literacy should be the first thing. And to follow up on that one, like who is responsible for AI literacy? Is it, for example, in your organization, is it something which you are basically responsible of? You have meetings with your teams, or how regular you have meetings with your teams? You maybe put some kind of document and you say these are our ways of working with AI. So I'm curious what worked for you.
So what worked for me is having these conversations every single day.
Okay.
Literally, because there is no way to. I can create documents. I did that as well. Nobody read that. Only AI read that. So it needs to be gradual. So to enable AI in an organization, yes, the most efficient way is to have a couple of early adopters. It doesn't have to be much, like one engineer for each team. Maybe one engineer for each team is actually quite doable. And they can explore, like scouts, they can explore the region, explore the use cases, opportunities. They can share what they learned. They can convert those things into the skills, agents, contexts, docs, whatever. I mean, you name it. And then gradually people will pick it up, because it needs to be accumulated. You need to use the compounding effect. If you leave this to an engineering manager or lead staff principal, it will become on the top down. So in order to enable everyone gradually, everyone will have a different timeline, different period. Have these conversations every single day. It can be a coffee chat. It can be, I don't know. It can be an example. You can share these things. You can share articles. Have these conversations. It takes time. It won't happen in overnight. It won't happen in 3 months. But over time, the baseline will gradually getting higher and higher and higher. And that's the most healthy way to do it. It's like losing weight, right? Right? You can't lose 5 kilos per week. It needs to be gradual. Otherwise, there will be a bounce back.
Yeah, wonderful perspective. What I like the most about what you shared is that daily talks, that continuous education, and that that part will never stop. You will constantly continue supporting your team, sharing more insights. When we live in a world where on a weekly level something will change, and we need to constantly be into the loop. And the other thing which I also mentioned, I also noticed, is the thing which you mentioned, that there need to be engineers who are pushing that. So someone who is doing these kind of things on a day-to-day level, close to the rest of the team, and they will be an example. And that and in that moment the people will chime in and start exploring that as well. So if it comes down from the bottom to the down, from the management side, as you said, it will not stick. So these kind of peoples, I noticed also across a couple of organizations, are super important, like engineers who are willing to try out the AI, and just the rest of the team follows. So they are super important. And yes. So as we are about to conclude this one, I have one last topic which I wanted to touch with you. Is you mentioned everybody on Twitter, on LinkedIn, saying AI will get all of our jobs, like these AI doom scenarios. So as someone who's been leading teams for some time now, I want to hear your perspective. If we can even talk about the period of next 3 to 5 years. So what do you expect to happen in the next 3 to 5 years? What will be the trends?
Oh, that's a good question. I think we're gonna observe a change in team structure first.
Okay.
Which I don't think we're gonna have 2 completely separate tracks from now on, especially for startups and scale-ups. There's already a trend called player coach model, and it's gaining popularity, but it needs to be treated lightly. Carefully, because if you put too much responsibility, because it creates lots of responsibility, lots of context switching. That's a big danger of burning people out. Second is, because of AI, I've started to see less junior engineers, because we expect, we need to change, the expectation from a junior engineer to learn things, execute, and take ownership slowly to become a mid-level, then start leading things, delegating things, leading projects, becomes a senior engineer. This is also changing. So either we're gonna see more vibe coder junior engineers, AI native junior engineers, and then they become experts on domains, or we're gonna have a huge shortage on software engineers. So I think the community is still debating on what we're gonna expect, how to redefine our profession. I think this is yet to come. I have expectations. I'm talking to to other people in different countries, but this shift is definitely the biggest change will happen on the managerial side and the IC part. So that's the big shift. Organizational shifts will happen as well, but my concern is on the actually to train, coach, grow new engineers. And this is where I'm a bit concerned.
Yeah, that will be the most difficult part. As also, I would add up onto that, because within our organization, we often like to work with young people coming from college,
Yeah.
etc. And now when we bring them in, like there is this main concern of how to properly onboard them. They need to use AI, otherwise they will left behind. But then if they use AI and they're here for 3-6 months, we start noticing some fundamental gaps inside things which are normal for other people. So that transition from being someone who just finished college and is a entry-level software engineer to someone who can actually understand the code and become a mid to senior, not iOS, but engineer, will be super difficult from my perspective.
What I can do, maybe what we can do as senior professionals in our domain to establish the guardrails, prepare the environment for junior engineers. They can use AI 100%, and we can review, coach them how to use it, and gradually they can gain knowledge about the internals. If they're like self-taught, it will be a bit harder for them because challenges. Everyone knows about those challenges. So good practice will be to prepare the environment, onboard them quickly. They can play around with a safe, well-defined parts of the code base, projects, and then establish the first principles. First principles of using the AI, domain, platform, and then they can establish a foundation.
Yeah, so that's something we were trying to establish as well. I would say we are not quite there yet. No. We're still experimenting with what works the best, but that perspective where they learn the internals and under the hood along the way is the major shift, where previously you need to learn all of those things and then you're able to contribute to a code base. So now within AI tools, you're constantly contributing and you are learning along the way. So that's really well put. Cool. That would be all from our side for today, Caner. Thank you very much for being a guest on this podcast. I really much enjoyed talking to you and sharing the perspective around AI within mobile development ecospace with you. Happy to have you. Happy to have you again at some point in the future also. So that would be all from our side. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Alexa. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, vice versa. Thank you, everyone, and see you in the next podcast. Bye-bye.
See you.